This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. Today is Tuesday, November 21st. And it's a little after 11 o'clock in the morning. Once again, this is C.A. Newry, and I shall be your host for today as we continue our conversation about the importance of culture, the importance of Bahamian history. When you're trying to duck talking about politics, we spoke about politics all last week. I mean, every day for like 2 weeks straight. I analyze the news, I critique what is happening and talk about it. And I said, man, this is the last push. And that's what the headline says today. The last push until the by-election. I said, man, let Howard and Dwight talk about that. Let me talk about being Bahamiano. So I'm going to talk about the orange economy, right? And it's a tapestry I'm trying to weave here, right? I believe there is money in being Bahamian, right? And I'm trying to squeeze this rag in order to squeeze out the money, give out ideas, give out concepts about things that clearly Bahamian people are interested in. Yesterday, I posted the link about the Bahamian surnames, and that has been shared almost 300 times now. A lot of Bahamians are excited to see their name in print and are looking for their small families who weren't mentioned, right? They want to hear their story about the four brothers who went to Andros and Ackland to Maguana and set up family there. They want to reconnect with those lost lineages, those lost siblings, or those lost family members who live on the other island. I was speaking to some Pelican descendants and hearing their story of the great migration from Eleuthera to Apico and hearing that story. I'm speaking about the Farquharson family now to see how they matriculated from a Anglo-Saxon loyalist family to now being a black family, and how the connections are between those family and trying to reconnect to have one family tree of Farquharsons, right? I'm speaking about the Morses Scavillas. I just got a family tree of Scavillas yesterday. I haven't looked at it yet to see how it connects to the various Scavillas family, right? And the which Italian family they came from and how they settled. So I'm eager to look through that. But I have Aaron Gray with me to speak again about Collins House, the importance of that particular project, which it seems, and I believe it's safe to say that we as a country have abandoned that project of having a national museum because truly we're not interested in any prescribing and subscribing to and cherishing what it is we call Bahamiano. If it was something that we wanted to cherish, we was going to be pushing towards it. We have no clue what money we have towards it now, how much money is owed, when the project is going to start. Is it in the mid-fall? Will it be the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Right? I say, since we're not interested, then we must abandon it and move forward. Right? We have the Collins property there. That's right next to Princess Margaret Hospital. I say, why not use the property? Why not use the property for something else?
Okay, so are you abandoning the idea of the museum itself,
yes,
or are you abandoning the idea of Collins House being the site for the museum?
When we find ourselves matured enough to value such, the museum will come in fruition. at this present time, we are not matured enough for it.
I can tell you what, I cannot disagree with you there because I don't think we are mature enough for dual carriageways yet.
No, that too.
So I mean, I'm seriously appreciating the analysis, right, and the criteria being used in the interrogation, and I think you're correct. When we are sufficiently mature, when we're ready, it will actualize.
It'll be germane, and it'll just happen.
But
we haven't reached that point yet for the need.
Here's a question, though. How many of us do you think realize that that is the barrier? That it isn't just that we have a stagnant political class or the political class lacks the political will to get it done, but that it's broader than that, right? That we don't appreciate ourselves as a collective sufficiently yet to understand the need and demand for such an entity.
Let me bait you. You are the vice president of the Hannah Hasty Times Reunion Committee.
Yes.
Right? This organization has been around from the early 80s, if not the 70s.
Right.
And let's throw out that date, right? You all have produced a number of successful reunions where people came from near and far as Japan, as far as Scotland, to participate in their family reunion. But there's no book. There's no history book on how the family came about. There's a book of stories of what one or two Hannahs has done, because I've seen an American version of it, right? And always the American people who tells the story about
Right.
Bahamians,
But
right?
so here's the thing.
Go ahead.
How does the booklet, right? Like how does the booklet of stories become a book of history?
Well, there must be a booklet of stories first,
Right.
and then it'll come a book
Of history.
of history.
But what I'm suggesting is that the booklet becomes a book when it's endorsed by the collective as the history. What is the mechanism that exists to endorse, right? What mechanism exists locally to verify that we say we accept this as an accurate and true telling of the story collectively, right?
And that's what our conversation is going to be about today. That, which you just enunciate and attempt to explain, right? The transition from an idea to something physical, right?
Tangible and sustainable.
And which you can pass on to the other generation. And the museum at Collins House supposed to have been that. This tangible project that has the culmination of what we call ourselves as Bahamas or Bahamians would have been housed there. But at this present time, it seems as if it's not urgent and there's no need for it. Therefore, it has not come into fruition as yet.
I would argue with you, almost as an aside, that the urgency exists, but on the other side of the coin, that what is urgent is the need to be able to maintain a particular political narrative that becomes distorted by actual history, right? The museum becomes a repository of our lived experiences, all of us, past, present, and for really savvy and cutting edge minds, it becomes a repository for the future, right? For the ideas that we project into the future. That type of space is dangerous to a political class with an agenda that stands separate from the people, right? And so it's urgent. I'm arguing that the urgency is that we do not create the repository, because then it makes it even easier to disrupt narratives, right, that are politically expedient. I mean, that's a bit, I know it's a lot of words, it's very heavy.
I understand.
I throw that out there.
Let me make it political since we're in a political season.
Yeah.
Due to the by-election. The PLP party joined a movement of change, a revolution, right? They have trailblazers within that party fighters within that party who they recognize and who they herald every so often, because they always put out things, but there's no book about the party. And now there's an argument about the tenets of the party, and it's one of the arguments they said, Obi Wilsham's the last of the PLP who understood the concept or the conceptual ideas of what the PLP should be or what's going to be.
So they appointed Glennis Hannah Martin, Sir Excellency, to Maaze.
No,
how could he be the last standing? But again, this is what I'm saying. That's why you have a book, because it disrupts the politically expedient narrative.
And I think you attempted to even be political and reference it, but Glennis Hannah lives the PLP dream or agenda, but living it as an individual and then pushing it out in terms of making the party itself accountable for it.
But to
I'm not
suggest
necessarily think that that's what.
But to suggest that Obi was the one who was doing
that's
that.
what they claim. They say that when he speaks, he in his speeches, in his voice, in his tone, in his culture of what he does. I'm not saying he speaks of a bygone era of the PLP.
I'd like to thank you for putting an example on the table that clearly highlights what it is I was saying.
So you just
because it suggests to me that's the type of political narrative that would be easily disrupted with a glance through the history books, right? Like if there were a collection of speeches by leaders, like if they had a collection of speeches given on convention floors.
Yes.
And a collection of speeches given at rallies.
Yes.
Right? Then we could sit back and say and determine whether that is the truth. Right? But to wait until the man has passed to say that.
Disingenuous. And then don't bring out the speeches to say, see?
And just suggest that what is more urgent is not having a museum.
The FNM party started with freedom fighters. So they claim they left the PLP because they believe that the leaders then were not living to the tenets of what the PLP subscribed to.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
In the formation of the new party that came out of there, do you think that party then truly reflected the tenets of the PLP?
And that's subjective.
Okay.
And the reason why I bring it up again is the recording of who we are, what we are. There is no book of the FNM to explain the reasoning why they left, why they exist, and why they are different. We just don't know. And it goes straight back to the lack of will of not having a national museum, because we have not reached a maturity where there's a need to analyze and to actualize what it is that we say we are.
I'm going to put it on the table again. We have reached a maturity where we see the need for these things, but we have a political class and culture that cannot tolerate the existence of that thing.
And I would have agreed with you if we didn't have writers here or storytellers in the Bahamas. Sparky calls almost every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes you say the same story again and again and again. You say, man, you tell me that last time. But has he written anything down? That means whatever he's... And let me just... let me bait someone else. Let me bait somebody else. C. Alan Johnson calls every other day with concept and ideas of a better Bahamas. But has he written anything down academically to say, this is what I'm trying to put forward? I need you to analyze and actualize this. So if they're not doing that, if they're not recording Bahamian or the narrative of what we say or what they profess and that would need to be happen, that means they are not producing anything. Now, the talking is just idleness.
You use the word academically, right? What if people are actually producing these things, but there is no system to plug into? So, because you said academic, which means that there's a standard, right? There's a standard of the work. The work has to be up to a certain standard. The recording or the written work has to be up to a certain standard. What if people are actually documenting these things, but there is no mechanism to feed into? I don't expect Sparky or someone like Sparky necessarily to be able to publish a book?
Oh, I'll let you pause there.
Yeah.
And the German name escapes me right now. The tourism fellow. He's
Wallace? Hold on.
We just met him the other day. Where did we see him? He has his own museum. He has his own museum now. I know the name. And he, in his own home, right, they now do tours.
Mm-hmm.
He negotiated with tourism now to stop and see the pictures of the early tourism of the 1980s, 80, I forget his name, in 1970s or whatever it is, and he have pictures of him.
See, now I know
tourism.
Gregory and Bristol has a museum on Market Street, a gallery, sort of small museum on Market Street, but I don't think that's who we're referencing here.
And the name just escaped from me again. Why I keep on thinking Russell? But and again, I want to commend Gregory and Bristol for his effort, and his commitment to it. So we do have Bahamians who are interested.
Vernal Sands.
Vernal Sands is the name. Thanks.
Thank you, Texter.
Thank you very much, Texter. And see, I'm saying that even though I say academically recorded, there are people who are not necessarily academically inclined, but understands the need to record us. Mm-hmm. And that's why I want to commend someone like Vernal Sands for what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And that's why I would make the effort to pass by it and leave him $5 and say, man, hey, I appreciate that you decided to record us. But we have a caller here. Let me engage the caller for that. And hopefully the recorder is somebody who decides to write and do instead of talk. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Coming right now.
Go ahead, caller.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Newry.
Good morning. How you doing?
Yeah, I call Newry every day.
Yeah, I see that.
And the topics are normally a different topic. If you want to say the same topics over and over, unless when we come to politics and religion, we hear those same things over and over. But from time immemorial, there are civilizations that didn't write down things. There are different organizations that go down by passing things down by word of mouth. For example, as far back as we go, the Egyptians had what they called the hieroglyphics, where they recorded a lot of things on the walls of the pyramids and so forth, by chiseling out different scriptures, or they wrote on some sort of pages from barks of trees and so forth. There are many civilizations in Africa that didn't write down anything. They passed down by word of mouth from the chief to the young children, and they just passed it down as the civilization died out. That stories. And in the Bahamas itself, if you remember, that I think there was Dr. Enyas would say to the Bahamians, don't put it in the book because Bahamians don't read. You remember that saying, Miss Green?
Yes, even though I have two of his books.
Yeah, I remember.
He made sure that he wrote it down in order for his family to have a copy, and by extension, now I have a copy.
Yeah,
thank God.
He made mention. He say, "Don't put nothing in the book because Bahamians don't read."
And he proved that Bahamians do read because that's why he wrote it down.
Right. But then again, we're talking about the average.
I am average.
No, man, you might be above average.
No, I wish I was above average.
You got degree. You've been to school.
If Erin is average and she beyond me, imagine where I stand. I average.
Well, Erin ain't no average.
Yeah, that's my point.
She's way above average.
But my point is, all this Sparky, and I have a call blinking like crazy.
I know, every time I call, you got a call.
You popular?
But
let me answer this.
When they call you, you sit back and listen.
Yeah, that's when I enjoy it.
That's your favorite people.
I know that.
Even you pick out your favorite people.
I do have favorite.
But have a good day. Go take the call.
Thanks very much.
You don't like me to call your show?
No, man, I like when you call the show.
You like to come in my yard and get my avocados? So have a good day.
You been to your yard without me? That's the trouble now.
I need to get more avocados. He ain't off me since. But my point is, Sparky needs to stop just calling and write.
Or
record.
Right, because we acknowledge that there are various methods of documenting.
There's value in what he said.
In fact, I mean, tremendous value. And I realize that there may be some technical issues stopping me from doing my show half-cut history, but we have to figure out how to do that.
And you would also notice that sometimes I play voice notes.
Yeah.
Just to have it
on the record. Yeah.
But let's go to this next caller. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? Do you have any text, by the way? Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? Call gone went. I can hear you in the background, caller. No? So that caller's gone.
So just before we continue with the conversation, just saw a short reel documentary on social media about an African American woman that started this project. You know what she started to do?
What she started?
She recorded everything that came across the television until her home was just filled with thousands of VHS tapes. And I think eventually people saw the value of what it was she was doing, and she was able to create a museum or a repository for the recordings. And now people find it so valuable to be able to go there in an attempt to source information that's been lost from the archives. But her archives has practically everything that was on television in her adult life since she started.
And because you mentioned that, I would now recognize C. Allen Johnson for that. Anything that comes on the recordings on the radio and even on the news, he records and documents. I'm not sure he recorded for, but all programs he has.
But I don't
just go to ask him for it and he'd say, hold on.
I don't think that we as a collective have realized where we are. Call back. Where we are as a people. Like the point you made earlier about maturing. Producer, let's get that call, please. Maturing to understand the need for these things. We can take this call, and I'm going to get back to it because I still think we haven't matured sufficiently to use dual carriageways, let alone understand the need for documenting everything about us.
Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Morning to both of you.
Good
Morning.
I'm sitting here and listening to your conversation, and one family name you all forgot is the Strauns. That is a very prominent family.
It's a Cat Island name, isn't it?
Cat Island and Rumpke. It was two brothers. One went to Rumpke and one went to Cat Island.
I go into the list right now, sir.
And the Roberts also from out of Eleuthero to Harbour Island.
And Abaco, Roberts.
And Abaco and the Johnsons out of Fresh Creek and all of that. I'm a descendant of those three families.
Mm-hmm. We got Johnson. Johnson is number 2 on the list with 10,103 people.
Well, they didn't count me because nobody asked me yet. So make it, add one more.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I'm listening and I'm trying to find the flaw in what you all are talking about documentation and books. I don't know if you all gave any consideration to how expensive it is to do these things nowadays.
Self-publishing isn't that pricey, you know.
Well, see, the thing about it with publishing, the person has to be basically a writer and have to have the time to do these kind of things, because that takes time. I can't see a young person starting out who's trying to form a career and wait for a family and all of that and sit down and write, unless that's a hobby. And then for them to take their monies, what they're trying to raise their family with, and put into something that you don't get much return because our population isn't that big. And what percentage you think will go out there and buy a book that is Bahamian of the population?
If it's a book about them.
And next thing, if the schools would then say, yes, we would use this in our educational system, then I could see a person going ahead and investing in the book. But if they don't have any direct way to get at least their money back, you're not going to find much of this documentation being done.
Now, pause right there, because you raised some great points. See, first of all, value isn't always about money. And sometimes the money isn't realized in the now, it's realized in the future. So one thing we're talking about is actually not necessarily you, grandfather, writing the book, but you knew that every day grandfather wrote in his journal. In fact, grandfather was, like the Renaissance man, he had all kinds of different jobs. And so then you realize that he documented everything in his journal. Grandfather is not writing the book. It's the grandchildren, it's the descendants that can access the journals, because the journals have been preserved because they have value. And they turn it into something that is primarily valuable to the family legacy, and then secondarily may be able to be monetized. See, thank you, Mr. Newry, for this moment. Do you know what it is to be able to say, I'm a 12th generation Bahamian, right? The value in that. You can only do that if you can maintain a connection to the legacy of your ancestry, right? Now imagine that you could go on into a boardroom, or did you know, Mr. Newry, had the opportunity to be in the White House, in a part of the White House that only 5% of Americans have been in. Now imagine if I had been able to say, but you know, I'm from the Bahamas and I've been in the Bahamas since 1700s, but I also have ancestors that have been in the U.S. since 1700s. The power that a Hall of Wesco has in a boardroom, being able to say, I'm a 12th generation descendant of a family or from a place, that's far more valuable than the $50 you can put on that book. And in the life, that's how legacy is built. And so I appreciate the economic assessment, but we're talking about something not just far grander than that, but that you are watching people capitalize on every day in your own country, and they gain an advantage over you simply because they have a real tangible connection to the ancestry. And we're talking about giving that to other Bahamians.
As we go to this call, I'd like to mention that when the Smithsonian came here to record about the Bahamas, they ranked the Bahamas then as the #1 country in the region who had old stories, documentary on songs and poems and alike in this region, right? Fast forward years later, we don't know a Bucky Barabi Bahamian story.
Fast forward a few...
A Nancy story, which we were proclaimed as being the best in the region.
Right, and not just that, how many Bahamians don't even know about our presence in the Smithsonian?
That's deep.
Those people know more about the Bahamas than the average Bahamian. It's a privilege that we are restricting other Bahamians from.
Yes.
You know what it is to know your daddy and know your... Look here, God, good morning, Uncle Sarah and the Eneas family, who show us the pride and what being able to instill that in your children can do for you.
They're writing a new book too, that's a family.
Right, and we sitting here, not you directly, caller. It's not a critique of you. Let's go to the next call and we get back to that.
Go ahead, caller.
Hello, good morning, Aaron and Newry.
Morning.
Yeah, I just picking up on your conversation, just got out of the shower. And remember I called about the Farquharson's estate 2 months ago?
Yes.
From Watlands Islands in Salvador?
Mm-hmm.
I have that number here.
Well, we haven't followed up with each other since then. And I just wanted to, mention that. And when you talk about the legacies, the Farquharson Journal in the archives, who was the loyalist that came to the Bahamas, it's documented there about the daily life, and that's the only documentary in archives about slave life in the Bahamas. You
Yes,
see?
sir.
I also wanted to, because from last week, you had told Sparky when he called in, you need to document what he had to say. You had to get with him. You wouldn't have a document with Ragged Island Life by Miss Lockhart, Edmund Moxie's mother, right?
I writing it down right now. Ragged Island Life?
Yes, by his mother, Naomi Lockhart. That's Kayla Lockhart's mom.
Okay.
Also, husband to Goose Lockhart's mother. A copy of it, James Moxie from McKay and Moxie has a copy of it.
Okay.
I don't have a copy, but I know he has it, so you can consult with him. And I don't think that's widely published, and that'd be good for the schools too.
I mean, absolutely. See, Mr. Newry, caller, thank you very much. I don't want to cut you off before you finish.
That's fine.
Thank you so much. Oh, wait. You have the number, Newry?
I've written down.
Please, producer, please get the number so Mr. Newry will secure it.
I wrote it down.
Don't go, caller. The producer is going to connect with you.
I just haven't
There we go.
reached yet.
See, Mr. Newry, this is an example I'm talking about, right? Whenever I hear someone saying, oh, Ragged Island need development, they need big money investors to come down there and turn things around for Ragged Island. And then I'd say, have we considered the anthropological and ethno-anthropological value of right, like the urgency to do that work so that we can extract from the ground, from the community, the remnants and relics of life on these islands to ensure that they are properly documented before we engage in large-scale development. I think about the site where the new U.S. Embassy is being built, right? And in fact, just last week when I was driving by, they had taken down the wall on the East Street side, right? That wall been there my whole life, as far as I remember. Now the wall is gone, and they were digging holes. And I thought, has anybody done sonar and radar to determine whether there are artifacts under the ground?
New Providence, Nassau was the capital of the Bahamas.
Yeah.
The spot where the U.S. Embassy would have held pirates.
But this is what I'm saying.
Bootleggers. But don't worry, it's gone now. It's gone now. Don't worry, but why talk about it? It's gone now. It's gone.
It's not gone.
Wait, we dig it up. Where it's gone now? It's in the trash.
It's not in the trash.
Where is it? Go ahead, tell me where it is.
Well, first of all, we don't see. This is it. We don't know. We don't know.
They went down at least for 10 feet. Where is it? We built on top of that place. Which you going to dig up now?
I would rather think.
You can live in hope.
No, I would rather think that somebody did all the work, found things, and then hiding them from us. I'd rather think that than to think that they just went in and just mash up the whole place without determining or assessing whether they could extract those things from that space.
Is that the caller or you on the phone? I see. I get a text from Ken Allen says, Mr. Newry, ABC of Business Magazine have been documenting our history for over 13 years, and I have one or two of the ABC magazines.
But you could imagine that. You could imagine that foreign, not just foreign entities like publications, but foreign economic and financial institutions have better documentation
of the Bahamas,
right,
than us.
Imagine that Iris Munka from Cat Island, Iris Reed, right?
Idris Reed?
No, Munka from Cat Island.
Okay.
Who did the excellent lecture on Columbus and Cat Island.
Oh, okay.
Indicating that Cat Island is actually the landfall of Columbus. He's got maps, he's got oral testimony, he's got all kinds of evidence to prove his point that Cat Island was the landfall of Christopher Columbus, and that there, on top of other things, there was a land deal to switch up the names. There are foreign entities that know more about the history of the Bahamas than Bahamians.
But you covered that in high school, though.
No, you didn't.
He actually did. That school in Fox Hill had a history lesson about San Salvador versus Cat Island, and the name changed in 1926. So I could call out dates, but we covered that. And Miss Burgess was a great history teacher.
What was the reason given for the sale or for the change of names?
I don't remember, but I remember she produced documents in terms of persons who were born in Cat Island. Birth certificates said San Salvador and vice versa.
Munka presented those in his lecture as well.
Yeah, but it is what it is.
No, it isn't, Mr. Newry. It can't be. It is what it is.
This text says, great show as usual. We don't know where we come from, and that's why most of us act the way we do. Trust me, if more people find out that they were related to a king or a queen, they would act differently. I related to farmers and fishermen, and I act differently.
So, Tex, are you saying because, dear Tex, I am not being, but are you saying that because I say that I'm related to the king, I act differently?
Perhaps.
Maybe.
Miss Green, Columbus statue being here for years, and being here all of my life, and that gone too. Say gone.
It ain't gone.
It gone.
Oh no, that ain't gone.
Where is? You tell me exactly where Columbus statue is.
I bet you I know where it is, and I'd be very mad if I write.
In the dump. That's
where
it is.
No, what would be worse is that somebody claimed that to have on their own property, private property, understanding the value of it, but refusing to have a public conversation so that we could all enjoy the value of it. And I don't mean the value of heralding the statue of D'Artagnan, who we think is Columbus,
Yeah.
but the stories attached to it, the stories about the lives of the Africans that built it and why they felt the need to build it, right? These are the things that are imbued in and captured in.
And this is where I want
thing.
to herald Christopher Davis, and his effort to record a different story. I'm not saying that the story is accurate or correct, or that's the official story, but a different origin story of John Canoe, that a Bahamian thought to travel all the way to Africa, to this Akan people in Ghana, and then write a story and present and say, this is our story. I'm not sure if there's an official John Canoe story out there.
Because I was going to ask you, what's the narrative that he's challenging?
No, he's just saying that John Canoe was an African that everyone.
Well, initially John Canoe was actually helping the traders until he realized
Jamaica have a different story.
what was happening. Okay.
Jamaica has a different
Cool.
story. They know John Canoe. They say John Canoe was captured and sent to Jamaica, and he died in Jamaica, and that's how the celebration come here. And they suggest that John Canoe came by boat, in quotes, not the person, but the event. Morphed from Jamaica to the Bahamas, then go to Bermuda and where else in the United States. That's their version of it.
Right.
And of course, we reject that, say that don't make no sense. But my point is, there's different versions and
Yeah, yeah.
stories of the original.
No, because I
John
was just wondering if I could take that. I thought Ministry of Tourism put out their own version, and I was like,
Imagine. There are people in the Smithsonian said that they created the name John Canoe too. Before that,
Jamaica.
no, the
Ghanaian.
the white gentleman at the Smithsonian.
So did who created the word?
They created a term, the underspelling of Junkano, Junkanoo, and that before that, Bahamians were saying John Canoe, and that he changed it.
The Smithsonian boy said that he changed it.
Yeah, it's part of their narrative. I'm not sure what
Which
we're
is,
doing.
which is why having your own narrative agreed upon, not by the people, but by a process that balances, right? The preservation of the past, preparation for the present. Providing for the present and preparation for the future. The balance of that in the collective is the narrative that we move forward with.
Our text says, good morning. I just watched an episode of The Bahamas Life where people were shopping for a $200,000 home in Ragged Island. Why aren't the taxes and fees from real estate sales being earmarked for the development there? And then top it off with the consolidated fund. All money goes to the consolidated fund, right?
Until we decide that all money doesn't go to the consolidated fund.
You all want the Bahamas collapse. Anyway, this text says, my mother was born on Watlands Island, now San Salvador. Her birth certificate says Watlands Island. My father's birth certificate says San Salvador, now Cat Island. It's okay. It all depends on what it is. The Google and the old map now of the San Salvador, you will get the answer on Air Live. Yeah.
No, we know the answer.
Yeah.
We know the answer. We know the answer that Cat Island is really the San Salvador that Columbus landed on. The answer I want next is why the land sale? Why the switching of the names with the land sale?
And I'm sure it's recorded. But the thing is, in the...
You think they gazetted it?
It's always got to be gazetted. In the circa 1800, right? Watlands Island was the name was changed, the San Salvador was changed to Watlands Island. And that's what they say was Columbus was. So that was also part of why they changed it. They didn't know where it was anymore. Watlands Island is supposed to be the San Salvador, and San Salvador is supposed to be Watlands Island. So they said, man, just make a decision. Right? Something like that. Anyway, the music is playing, right? We're talking about what we need to be doing. Why aren't we doing it? And what is the conclusion, right? I'm saying that we are finding ourselves not matured enough to appreciate who we are, and that's why nothing is happening. There are persons on my text saying that, yes, we are doing things, just not enough. And I ask, what are we doing?
Right, and in this instance, we have to recognize that some of us may be doing it, but if we can't take it up to the collective, then it just has less value. It's unfortunate we live with that every day.
Okay. Anyway, we'll be right back. Guiding Radio AM.
The Grand Bahama News is available every Tuesday in the Nassau Guardian. Buy your local paper at Freeport convenience stores, Western Bakery, DeGregory's Fine Foods, and Bellevue Gifts. Want to reach your Grand Bahama customers? Then call Barefoot Marketing at 827-4578 or message them for ad rates via their Facebook page. Advertising opportunities now include classified ads too. Keep up with all the latest Grand Bahama news in the Nassau Guardian newspaper every Tuesday.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
The holiday season is upon us, and everyone's going to be looking for those special items on their gift list. Merchants, here's your opportunity to have your products placed in the Nassau Guardian's Holiday Gift Guide. This year, shoppers are going to be searching for perfect presents at the right price. Anything from a family island weekend getaway to electronics, jewelry, and even clothes. For one low price, you can have your ads published twice this December in the Nassau Guardian's Holiday Gift Guide. Deadline for registration is Wednesday, November 30th. Be sure to contact your Nassau Guardian sales agent or call the Nassau Guardian directly at 302-2300. Be sure to ask about our 30-second Christmas radio commercial bonanza.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
The Nassau Guardian's Holiday Gift Guide. Our gift to you. Because Christmas is...
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And welcome back to Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Newry, and of course Aaron Green is with me, and we are talking about Bahamiana, right? Who we are, who we ain't, what we need to be doing. Is it responsibility of each individual to be doing something? Are we recording? Does it need money? Does government need to lead the charge, or can I do something on my own and say, hey, this is enough for it? And we call people like Vernal Sands, we call people like Gregory Ambrister, Arlene Nash with her private entity there for tour.
Like Pam Burnside,
Pam
continuing the legacy that she started with her husband.
Barabbas and his tribe.
Yeah.
That they are making the effort. That a museum doesn't call for much money. It just calls for effort.
Yeah.
Writing a book doesn't call for much money, and our academics just need to have an effort.
Right. However, at the same time, we have to acknowledge that while people are doing things individually, right, those things have value individually, but we can't maximize that. We cannot maximize that value without a system for them to plug into, both a system, an infrastructure for them to plug into, and a culture that boosts it, right? And so we have all of these elements. But do the foreign stakeholders in the tourism product understand the value of these elements in the larger tourism product, right? And does the state understand its role of creating an infrastructure where the foreign tourism stakeholders can connect to the local cultural stakeholders, which then become by default tourism stakeholders, because tourism is all about culture, right? So you have...
Is tourism about culture?
Tourism is all about culture.
So why isn't tourism and culture one ministry? And why isn't culture having a big portion of the money? Why is tourism getting more money than culture? See? You mix up.
No, I am not mixed up. Something is mixed up.
Who's mixed up?
I'll tell you clearly, it's the government that's mixed up. It's the Ministry of Tourism that's mixed up, and we have allowed ourselves to become a part of a product that is devised, that is imagined by a foreign stakeholder.
Let's go to this text. I have a text here also saying that the maps were labeling Cat Island, San Salvador. Different maps have different labels for San Salvador and Cat Island. So there's an act of Parliament in May 6, 1926, that reversed the names to have one definite San Salvador. So that.
But why wasn't the San Salvador? Why didn't you all see? This is the point.
We don't create maps.
Why didn't you call the place of Christopher Columbus's landfall San Salvador?
They made a decision.
Go ahead, Mr. Newry.
Let's go to the caller. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, Aaron and Newry.
Yes, sir.
Me calling back.
Yes, sir.
Mentioned about Farquharson, China, and the Ragged Island
Life, Naomi Lockhart.
life, right?
Yes, sir.
Aaron, Newry, the change of the name was because of the whole southern area there was the District of San Salvador, right? Including Rum Key and Cat Island and all of them. Now, yes, Cat Island was called San Salvador, and now San Salvador was called the Island of Watlands. But them tracing Columbus journey, they realized that Columbus could not have passed Watlands and pick up Cat Island and land in San Salvador because of how the boats moved slow, because it was early in the morning when one of the sailors said, "Tierra, tierra, land, land." And they could not, in his route, could not have passed Watlands and pick up the island of Cat Island and land there.
Okay.
You see?
That'll be a good documentary, eh?
This is what I say.
In San Salvador.
So these things are documented, and so when certain different publications. So it was the district, and the caller who said that she was born there and said that she is right because even remember in 2006 when they wanted to go and dig for gold in San Salvador. You remember that? We have to talk because Yanni Wanika accompanied me. You see?
Yes, sir. Okay.
When they were wanted to go on the property belonging to my great-great-grandfather. And, I ran them out of the courts. Michael Barnett ruled on the 29th of January 2015. You made me Leela know about all that. The Farquharson, the loyalist, Charles Farquharson, is my great-great-great-grandfather. That's a different set of, land there.
Yes, sir.
Not, pertaining to the one with the gold. So, not to, put up an argument as to Cat Island was called San Salvador. Yes, it was. And Watlands was Watlands. And it did change in 1926 because my mommy born in 1926 in San Salvador. You see?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'm rounding a text right now, WhatsApp actually.
When's he allowing me?
Thank God Villa Doyle was not torn down due to short-sightedness and lack of vision before the NAGB could come into existence, right? And I guess that's an argument for why we should keep Collins House and allow it to dilapidate and fall in by itself. That we should wait patiently.
That's. The words that you said, they worked in the sentence. I'm not disputing that the sentence worked, right? But we can wait, but also not allow it to dilapidate.
Yeah, that's what we was doing for Bay Street. And someone saw the vision and said, "Man, this ain't working. This ain't working."
To you,
so they bulldozing everything.
The political class ain't working. There is no political will. Now, I'd love, if we can, to also intersect with the orange economy and the possibilities for Collins House. What can we do with Collins House that preserves what remains of the history in terms of the architecture and the relics and remnants in the building, but still generate sufficient income from the property to maintain the property and eventually restore it to its grandeur?
Let's go to this caller there before we go. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? No, the people listen to music.
I believe they say expand PMH.
Yeah,
That's,
okay.
I believe that's
Yeah.
a good morning, caller.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, sir.
You all mentioned in Villa Doyle, right?
Yes.
Now, yes, Villa Doyle, that's where the National Art Gallery is now, right?
Yes.
And like I said, I picked up on your conversation late because I just got out of the shower.
Yes, sir.
Well, the property right there, east of Villa Doyle,
Mm-hmm.
between Hospital Lane, come out there before McKinney Turner Co.
Mm-hmm.
The government purchased that for me to go with that building when they were going to make it the National Art
They
Gallery.
purchased the land from you,
Property.
the property.
If you pass there,
And you know Leela and you didn't call me, sir? You know you know my mother and you didn't call me to ask me if I wanted to buy it?
I'm gonna tell you the deal. The deal was they had to have
Hold on. There's no NDA, there's no non-disclosure.
no.
Okay.
Happened.
Yeah.
Harry opened it for I buy it,
Okay.
right? He died, but not the Oaks. Ended up with it. And they advertised it in the paper one morning I saw it. And my friend was coming and having advertised. I said, I'm still waiting. He said, yeah, wait a minute. You're going to go with the hospital. Come on, you got the last bill.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you. I ain't mad at you. You can't fight that.
That's a great story to tell too. Anyway, I needed this conversation to be held, and we need to have more conversations like this moving forward. This has been Guardian Radio in the AM with CA Newry. It's now 12 o'clock. Have a wonderful and beautiful day. Thank you very much, Aaron Green.
No, thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Mash down tomorrow, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. Mash up. Have a wonderful day.